Welcome to the #1 spot health and wellness practitioners go to double their current income and turn their 10-hour work day into a 10-hour work week. Join us as we dive into the tips, tools, and tech you need to create a life and practice on your own terms. More freedom, flexibility, fulfillment, and of course, funds. It's time to build your online practice. And I'm your host, Michelle Rogers, also known as the WELLthy Woman. Be sure to subscribe for your weekly dose of education, inspiration, and action. Let's get started. So I'm excited to introduce you to Jacqueline Yvette today. I met Jacqueline in person like many, many years ago. I think it was like 2018 or something like that, actually at a summit, at like an in-person event, and looked her up, started following her, and was just like mesmerized. We'll get into this, like with her messaging. And I was just like, wow. And I was just this like behind the scenes kind of stalker of her work, and just like, wow, like she's doing some really cool stuff. And like, there's this part of me that's like really intrigued. And anyways, ended up working with Jacqueline. I think it was earlier this year. Right. And so I'm just excited for her to share her wisdom and genius with you, because she's going to be talking about creating an instantly resonant marketing message that brings your perfect fit clients right to you, which is absolutely essential for health and wellness practitioners wanting to bring their practice online. So I hope you are also excited. I'll give you a little bit of a background. So Jacqueline Yvette is a psychology-based marketing expert and the creator of the Neuromarketing Method. She helps online entrepreneurs create instant resonance with her marketing so they can sell out their offers and spread their message like wildfire. Over the last 10 years, Jacqueline has supported thousands of online entrepreneurs in growing their businesses, simplifying their marketing, building raving fan audiences, and reaching multi-6 to 7 figures in their businesses. She has also contributed to the marketing success of nationally recognized business owners and companies like TEDx. Her mission is to help those with powerful, transformative work communicate the value of it so powerfully that it draws in their people like bees to honey. I love that. Right there, you can like feel like how juicy just like your bio is. Like, can you guys feel like that instant resonance kind of like right there in that messaging? Is so good. So welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Yay. So I have kind of like a fun question that I've been asking all of the speakers. Can I ask it to you?
Yeah, hit me with it.
All right. So the question is, as an expert in the field, how do you anticipate the online space evolving for health practitioners? And what shifts or trends do you believe will shape the industry in the near future?
Oh, such a good question. And it's so relevant because I recently had some health stuff come up and I had to go and find some practitioners. And let me tell you, it was very difficult. It was very difficult. And so I think that this is the best time in history for health and wellness practitioners and experts to be moving online, to be sharing their expertise, to be nailing it when it comes to communicating that, because your people need you more than ever, and they're seeking you out. And people are starting to become more, with just the growth of the internet, people are becoming more open to doing a lot of self-exploration, self-discovery in the way of like trying to find answers themselves, right? Gone, I think, are the times of just like, you just go to your one local town doctor and you're like, tell me what's going on. Okay, here's some medicine on your way. They are Googling now. They are watching TikToks. They're watching Instagram videos. They are looking at people's email newsletters. They're on YouTube. They are doing research, as I was, trying to figure out like, what's going on with my body? What's going on with my skin? What's going on with this and that? My gut, all these things, right? They're looking to find answers for themselves. And so now is the absolute best time that you can make yourself seen, make yourself known, and position yourself as the go-to expert for the specific thing that you want to help your people with, because they're out there looking for you and they just need to be able to find you. So I think that is something to keep in mind more and more, now than ever. And it will continue to be the case where people will, I think, go to, and this is across all industries in our space, right? In the transformation space. But I think people will seek out experts and specialists more than ever as well. And that's something I'm sure Michelle will talk about it. We'll talk about that later in our conversation, but I'm a fan of specialties and expertise and really honing in on that because people are truly looking for that.
I could not have said it better. I was like chills all over my body. Yes, 100%. Yes. Do you guys feel that? Like, do you feel that? Like, this is the best time to be taking your practices online. Like, we're still the early adopters, and this
Yeah.
is like the time to ride the wave. Like, so, so important. So, so glad you said all of that. And you're just like, you're the perfect example too. Like, I was looking for health stuff. Like, exactly. It's like your journey is probably so similar to so many other people who are like, yeah, trying to find out what's going on.
For sure. I've talked to at least 7 or 8 people, and honestly, it was difficult. Like it's still difficult to find the right person for exactly what I'm looking for, especially for people who are well-versed in doing their own studying and research and stuff. Like I know what I want, and it's difficult to find that because it's not easy. Like these people are not making it easy to find them. And typically, and all of you listening can probably relate, as an expert, you may have like a full schedule, you may have a full roster of in-person clients. And so in that transition, there are people who are maybe not in person, who are like seeking you, but because you're so busy and because a lot of people have not prioritized figuring out what it means to transition online, they're missing out on more people they can help, more ways they can leverage themselves online by creating programs and things like that, as well as, just more money for their growth of their business, so there's a lot out there and people are looking for you. I hope that, I'm sure that's something you've talked about quite a bit, but
no, but it's true. It's great to hear it again and again and again. People are looking for you. So get out of your own way and make it happen. So we'll be talking more about how to do that in this talk. All right. You ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay. So what is the best strategy or platform to be on these days to find new clients?
Yeah, fantastic question. So it's kind of a trick question, I think, because there isn't one. There is not a best strategy or platform. And I'll tell everybody a little bit of a story. I got started in the online business space in the transformation work industry. I don't even know what to call it in this work, right? I got started doing this about 10 to almost 11 years ago. And man, I set out to figure out like, what's the best platform I need to be on? Is it YouTube? Do I need an email list? Yes. Is it this? Is it that? What strategy do I need to be deploying to find my people? How do I bring them to me? And you may be asking yourself the same thing. If you're in the midst of a transition or you've just made a transition, you might be thinking like, do I need to be on Instagram? Do I need to be on Facebook? Do I do a Facebook group? Do I have an email list? Am I LinkedIn? Like, where do I need to be to find these people? And so I did the same thing. I was doing this to figure it out, not only for myself, but also for some like agencies and bigger businesses and some clients that I was consulting with and working with TEDx and some other agencies in college and things like that. Because I started when I was in college, actually. And so I was trying to figure this out. And I was looking at what everyone else was doing, and I tried everything under the sun for like several years. I was looking at webinars, I was looking at summits like this, I was looking at email campaigns, different landing pages. Like maybe I just needed like an awesome website, and I was trying to figure out all of the things. And here's the truth that you may not like love, but you might find it relieving at the same time. The strategies don't matter. And if you're stressing about the platform, you are wasting your time. It is not about the platform, and it's actually not even about the strategy. What actually does matter, and what I notice actually does make the difference between someone who is seeing a certain strategy really working and then someone who's doing the same strategy and it's not working, the difference between the two is that the one that it works for is someone who is very, very clear on how to communicate what they're offering to the people who need it. They are extremely specific and very good at effectively conveying and articulating what it is that they're offering, what they do, the problems that they solve, the results that they're helping people to create. And they are dead on with that. And they're creating what we call instant resonance, where you put it out and it instantly lands for that person, not for everyone else. Everyone else doesn't really know what you're talking about, but the ones who it's really designed for, they're like, yes, how did you know? You're reading my mind. This is what I need. And so the person who has that, you could be on YouTube, you could be standing on a street corner. It doesn't matter. your people are, I mean, they're everywhere. You're doing health work, right? Like everyone could be a client of yours, but you probably have a specialty, you have expertise, right? And so you have specific people you want to work with, and those people need to be communicated with in a certain way. So it's less about the strategy or the platform and more about figuring out how you can communicate your message very clearly. And then from there, you can decide how you like to create marketing content, where your audience is most active, and you can start to figure out some strategy from there. But the number one piece that makes all the strategy effective or not effective is the messaging and how you're communicating.
Mm-hmm. Powerful. So how do you know if you actually have like a strong marketing message or if it needs a little bit of work?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so there are a few things that you can look at to, figure out if your messaging is landing. And there's a concept that I teach called market message match. Now, market message match is where your message, the communication of what you offer, what you teach, what you sell, that communication matches your market's desire. Okay, so if you're taking notes, this is something that I think I would write down because this is super important. This is like the crux of it. Your message, what you put out, the way that you communicate through your marketing must meet your market's desire, what they think they need, right? Because you might be over here and you're like, well, here's all this information, here's all of this awesome education on what's happening in your body and all this stuff. And it's just over their heads, right? They're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like they're not even seeing it. It's not registering. And they're like, well, I just have this pain. So I just need help with that. And if those things, if the way you communicate and the way they are thinking about what's going on are not matching, if there's not a market message match, then you could be, talking until you're blue in the face and no one can hear you. And so some symptoms, and it's not always like, do you have a match or do you not? It's a spectrum, so you might have like a somewhat, like an okay, a so-so match. So some symptoms of a market message mismatch are lukewarm and inconsistent interest or inconsistent leads. So if you're creating marketing, if you're sending out emails, you're on LinkedIn, you're wherever you are, if you're creating marketing, but you're getting like lukewarm interest where people are like, oh yeah, that's interesting, maybe I'll talk to you at some point, or inconsistent interest where, some weeks you get like a bunch of referrals or you see people reaching out and then maybe it's a dry spell for, too long. That's a symptom. Another symptom is you put something out and it's just kind of like crickets, or even like the wrong fit people reaching out. You might have people reach out who are interested, but you're like, yeah, that's not really what I do. That's not really the thing that I focus on. Or you might be having conversations with people thinking like, okay, this person's gonna sign up, they're gonna buy, and then they don't, and there's all sorts of objections, or like, oh, I need to wait, or I'm gonna do this like in a couple months, or I need to save up some money, or I need to do blah 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 blah, whatever, and then you never hear from them again. Or just generally people like don't really get what you do, or you don't know how to talk about what you offer. These are all mismatch symptoms. And so for those of you listening, I'd love for you to sort of evaluate, like, how often does that happen for me? And, you probably see marketing all the time if you're sort of studying people who are doing this really well. And you probably see it on social media. If you've started looking there, if you've started to make the transition, you probably see Michelle's marketing. And some people do it really, really well. And some people not so much. And then you're probably here because you're probably somewhere in the middle, just trying to figure it out, giving it an awesome shot, seeing a little bit of traction, but it's not as consistent as you would like. And so you're in the perfect spot for this. This is exactly you're in the absolute perfect place. And the other thing I wanted to talk about this is there's kind of like levels of resonance. So we talk about, this match, right? Market message match. There's levels to that, and levels of how do you know if this is resonating? How would you know if it was resonating? And so the first thing that you want to look for is level one of resonance is when people are reflecting back to you that what you're sharing is resonating. So it sounds so simple, but if you hear things like, wow, you're reading my mind, or that's exactly right, that's exactly it, or yes, exactly, that's what I need, or yes, that's totally what I'm experiencing, this makes complete sense, or things like that. If you're hearing that feedback, that is one of the best ways for you to know if this is resonating or not. So if you're hearing nothing, or if they're like, yeah, I kind of get that, or I'm kind of confused by that, or whatever, if you're hearing things like that, then we gotta figure out what's not landing. Something's not landing the way you want it to be. And then level 2 is all about rapport. And so this is where people start to open up to you. So these build on themselves. So first of all, someone starts saying, this is really resonating with me. This, you hit the nail on the head. And then you start to see more people opening up about their situation. So they say, Michelle, that really resonated with me, because this is what I've been dealing with. And they start telling you what's going on. They're like, yeah, I've been really trying to lose weight for months. And, what you said about XYZ, it really hit home for me because I've been trying this and that. And what do you think about that? They start to share with you about their situation. So that's level 2. They share their goals, their desires. This could be in the comments on social media. This could be in private DM messages. This could be on a call, wherever, in person. Now, level 3 is what I call the Netflix effect. Now, this is where people start binge watching your work, or they go through all your material, everything that they can find. They're gobbling it up. They're engaging with you. They're messaging you. They're like, do you have more videos that I can go through? Is there more that I can read? They're reading all your testimonials. They're going through everything that you have to understand what it is you do. And that shows that they're spending more time, right? You can see that in the beginning, level 1, it takes them a quick second to write a comment, right? Level 2, now they're actually talking to you. It takes them a little longer. They're investing more time and energy into this. The Netflix effect, I've had people message me and say, I spent the whole weekend just watching your free trainings and it was so good. And I literally just locked myself in my room and I watched them all. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of time you're investing. That's really cool. I'm honored. And that's an investment, right? So before someone ever gets to the point where they invest their money with you, they're investing energy and time probably first, right? Especially if they're already doing all this research, you want them investing that time doing research with you, because then it just makes sense that when you help them create this clarity, this light bulb moment, just through even your free marketing, that they want you to be the one to guide them through that. So that's the 3rd level, is the Netflix effect. Now, the 4th is what I call self-led acceleration. So this is where people are starting to accelerate the process themselves. So they are reaching out to you, they're DMing you, they're emailing you, they're booking a call, they're accelerating the process, saying, okay, I think we need to talk about how we work together. So they're leading the process. So if you feel a little bit unsure about the whole marketing thing, and you're like, I don't want to bug people, I don't want to be jumping in people's inboxes and asking them for money, I feel weird about all that. You don't have to. When you create instant resonance, when you have really strong messaging, this level 4 happens. As you move through the stages, people start to come to you and they say, what you're talking about makes so much sense. This is what I need. And can we talk about what that looks like? Right. And then level 5 is actually their commitment to transform. So this is where they've actually purchased, they sign up. And the best test of market message match and instant resonance is when they're actually using the product, right? They're actually using what you're teaching them, or they're using the service properly. They're actually, taking the supplements, doing the things, actually using it to get results. And that's when you know that they're really committed and into it. So it goes even beyond the sale, because we're ultimately here for transformation and not just money. So yes, that is my long-winded answer of how you know if you have a market message mismatch versus a truly resonant marketing message.
I love that. I think those symptoms are very clear. And I feel like a lot of practitioners are like, oh, I think I might have a mismatch. There's I think a lot of practitioners experience those crickets, or no one, what's happening? So how do you know, or how can our audience refine their messaging so that they can bring in more clients consistently? I think the consistency piece is the big one that a lot of people are like, how do I, what, huh?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. So I want to ask everybody here, how would you imagine that you would know what resonates with your people? How do you think you would know? I think that this is a question I get a lot. Well, how do I know what to say? How do I know what's going to land? And everything that I teach and what I the way that I come from all this is not like a tactics or trends type of place, which a lot of social media stuff tends to be. It's all from understanding psychology and human behavior. And so the reason I ask you this question is because it gets the wheels turning of like, well, how would I know if I was really focused on building relationships? Then it just makes sense that the only way to discover your market message match and create resonant content and marketing material is by getting into the mind of your market, by understanding what they think, what they say, what they want, what they're dealing with, their symptoms, what they're trying already that's like really not working, understanding what's going on for them, right? And so how do you read their mind? You're not a mind reader, right? So how do we understand what they're actually what they're thinking and what they're experiencing? Well, the only way to get into the mind of the market is to listen to the mouth of the market, talk to them. That is the only way to find out. So the first thing that I want you to do, if you're like, I don't even know where to begin when it comes to figuring out what the heck people need to hear from me, I need you to go and have 20 conversations. Go and talk to people who are specifically, dealing with what you help with. This might be an existing client, a past client, someone who you've been talking to for a while, but maybe they never worked with you, but they're, in your sphere. But have conversations and just let them know, hey, I'm looking to, more deeply understand the people who my work serves, and I'm looking to attract more people like you. And I'd love to ask you a few questions if that's okay. And just open up a conversation with these people and deeply understand what's going on for them. And there are two things that I want you to be listening for when you listen to the mouth of your market, okay? Two main things, and I promise you, if you nail this and you can figure out how to talk to these two things, you will be golden, and you can create all of your marketing from this place. You want to listen for, number one, the problems or challenges that they have but don't want. And number two, the results and outcomes they want but don't have. So I'll say that again. So the first is problems. This could be challenges, frustrations, irritations, symptoms that they have that they don't want to have anymore. They're like, man, this thing is really frustrating. I've been dealing with this for some time. I've been trying all these different things. It's not working. I don't know what to do. Problems. We're listening for problems, and we're listening for how they describe it. And I want you to take like written notes on this in their words. What do they say? So if they say, I have this weird, I have like pains in my stomach every time I eat dairy, then we don't want you writing like, they have gut dysbiosis or something, you know what I mean? Like write it in the words that they say, language that your people are saying, the layperson, non-medical, non-clinical type of language, because that's what your marketing needs to be. They don't speak medical. They don't speak wellness practitioner. They speak, I got ouchies in my stomach, right? So we want to speak their language. So problems and results. Problems that they have that they don't want to have. And then the second piece is results, outcomes, right? That they want but don't have. So if we think about like A to B, okay, they're at A, which is like they're experiencing all these problems. Stuff's going on. They're like, this is not right. And then B is where they want to be, free of those symptoms, feeling healthy, feeling clear, not experiencing that anymore. So what does that look like? And now you help them through the gap. Okay, so there's a gap between where they are and where they want to be. And your method, your specialized process for healing is the thing that helps them go from A to B. So what I always recommend to my clients is create a messaging master doc. Create just this big document. And when you're having these conversations with people and you're pulling out and extracting how they describe their problems, how they describe the results that they're looking for, how they describe things that they've been trying that haven't been working, I want you to just dump it on a document, just like copy and paste things they share with you, write down their exact language. And then when you go to create marketing, you pull up that document, which is a gold mine of information, and you use their words, because then guess what happens? people like them who are in a similar place, they see it and they go, "Oh my gosh, it's like you are reading my mind. It's like you're in my head." And you're like, "Yeah, you said that." Like, I'm hearing this from people like you. So pull it from exactly what they said and you can't go wrong. And so that's just the tip of the iceberg, but that's exactly where I would start is problems and results. Store that in a document, keep adding to it. Don't ever delete things. Just let it be a running doc. Like my clients have documents that are 50 pages long and they just keep adding to the top as they talk to more people. And then when they go to create, you're never starting from a blank page. You never get what I call blank page anxiety, where you're like, oh God, what do I say? What do I write? I have no idea. You pull up this document, you choose one, and you use that to start whatever you're writing or whatever your video is or email or whatever. So that's where I would begin.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And you're so right. Like the market research piece of actually talking to people, probably the most valuable chat, like strategy, I guess, if you want to call it a strategy or whatever, is like the most powerful. I teach something similar in like my mentorship, like get on the call and actually talk to people. Maybe they're past clients, maybe they're current clients, maybe, whatever, like just start talking to people. And like you said, like use their words. Like that piece is just, it's a game changer, especially when you're trying to make copy, but also creating offers that really like actually speak to that person, because people are like, how do I make an offer that's really irresistible to my potential clients? Like you need to speak to your client to like have them identify as like, oh, that's the thing that I need.
Exactly.
Yeah, so good.
100%.
Perfect. You want to add anything else before we dive into questions?
No, I'm good.
All right, let's dive in. So Annette says, how do we figure out our wording? I'm still trying to figure out my niche other than inflammation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Annette, I'm hoping that what I just shared helped and kind of gained some clarity there for you, because that's where I would start. Really, is to focus on what are the specific problems that your particular person is dealing with. Most people have inflammation, right? I would say that's like a lot of the world. We're all generally inflamed. The food that we eat, right? Environmental stuff. So that kind of brings up the question of like, well, who knows that they're dealing with inflammation? Who would identify that they're dealing with inflammation? Is there a specific symptom of that inflammation is represented as, represented with, right? Like, is it skin inflammation that they would notice? Here's something that'll be helpful for everybody. I talk about something like that I refer to as a trigger event. So there are people who may be trying to lose weight, trying to feel better in some way, trying to clear their skin, trying to eliminate gas and bloating for years on their own before they actually take it seriously and get some help, right? But when someone does decide to hire someone and pay money, spend time and energy changing their life, it's usually because something triggered that. Something happened or a thought came up that prompted them to say, you know what, I'm drawing a line in the sand. I'm going to make a change now. And that could be something as simple as like they saw an old friend out and they were like, man, that person looks the same as they did 10 years ago and I feel totally different and now I want to go and get help on the thing that I've been putting off for a long time. Or maybe they're getting married, or maybe they went through some sort of health issue that prompted them to say, you know what, I'm going to take this seriously. That's what happened to me. I'm generally very healthy, but having this issue that popped up, it was a cyst that popped up. And knowing that I needed to go get help with that had me go, okay, now I'm really gonna, go get some like hormonal, I'm gonna work on my hormones, in a much deeper way, because something happened that prompted me to say, I'm not dealing with that ever again. Like I need to do something a little different, right? So start to think about what could that be for your people that prompts them to actually make a change. Because generally people don't wake up in the morning and then look in the mirror and they go, it's time to buy a coaching program. It's time for me to sign up for a course. It's time for me to go and, buy something today. What happens is a problem occurs or some thought comes up or something happens where they go, okay, fine. I have to change something now. I'm done with this. I no longer am available for this symptom. And usually they hit a tipping point where that occurs. So I would start thinking about, how does it represent this inflammation? Is it acne? Is it IBS? Is it, what else? Just some sort of chronic something, right? Something's happening. I would speak to that very specifically so that your people can identify with it. Most people, I think, even though, like I said, we're all of us on some level at some point in our lives have dealt with inflammation, I don't think people would identify with that. If you said, if you have inflammation, work with me, people wouldn't be like, yeah, me. But if you said, if you've been dealing with hormonal acne for years since you were a teenager and you thought it would pass, but now you're in your 30s and it's like worse than ever. And along with that, now you have, gut issues and you struggle to go out to the restaurant and order things because you think it's going to set off a whole host of symptoms, then I'm speaking to you, right? So we want to hone in on what that is specifically. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think what I find with a lot of practitioners is they get scared to be like too specific. And I think that's the thing to really get over. It's like that specificity is what really creates that resonant marketing and that resonant messaging, because you're not only like for example, I had a program that I just spoke to women like that. Like, of course, it was a lot more specific than that, but I still had men reaching out to me. And it's not like just because you're niching down and getting really specific with your messaging that you're going to exclude people. Like, yes, you are. Like, that's part of it. You are going to repel the people who are not like meant to work with you, whether it be energetically or otherwise, but it's not going to limit you. If anything, it's just going to really magnetize the people who you really, really want to be working with. So
100%.
yeah,
Completely agree.
yeah. So don't be scared to niche down. It's really important in the online space. Annette says, this reminds me of the story of the band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. No one liked them in the beginning, and they kept refining their delivery until they became a desired commodity.
I love that.
Carrie says, if you are super clear on the desires of your ideal client and you know the cause doesn't match what they think it is, how do you best convey that marketing message? This is a great question.
Yeah, fantastic question, Carrie. So you have to meet your audience where they are, which means that you are going to definitely speak to what they think it is. And this is what I call a paradigm pivot. So this is where you're able to shift the belief of your audience. So if you imagine someone is really trying to solve a problem, but they're essentially fitting a square peg in a round hole and they're like, why doesn't it fit? This isn't working. And they're trying to solve this problem because they think that it's something else. If you can come in there and say, hey, if you're dealing with X, Y, and Z symptom and you want this outcome and you've been trying for months and years all of these things and you're still not seeing the result, here's why. And you want to create this gap where you're able to highlight for them, here's why you're not seeing the results that you're looking for. And this is relevant for everybody, because I'm assuming that your thing is getting to the root of the problem, right? Not you don't want to give your clients Band-Aid fixes. But as you know, most of the things that they're trying are probably short-term Band-Aid fixes that help with some symptoms, but don't really solve the root problem. So if you can educate on that for your people, that, hey, if you're trying all these other things, if you're trying the diet pills, if you're trying the supplement powders and greens stuff or whatever, or if you're trying these like really, really intense diets, or, whatever they're doing, counting their calories to a very small level and effectively starving themselves, whatever. If you're trying all these things, here's why you still feel stuck. Here's why your symptoms come back. Here's why you feel yourself get better for a little bit, but then it comes back with a vengeance and you're like, what the heck is going on? If you can speak about this experience, then they are going to be like, wow, you highlighted something that I had never even thought about before. That is fascinating. You must have something to teach me. You must be an expert. Can you help me figure that out? I hadn't even considered that would be the real problem. So you're effectively saying, I know you think it's this, but it's actually this. I'm going to show you why. And in that, you do not have to explain all the science of it. You just get to show them that, like, look, what you've been doing clearly isn't working. And it's because it's not actually getting to the real problem. It's not even that their solution is incorrect. It's that they're not even looking at the real problem. And they're just trying to alleviate symptoms versus figuring that out. So that's what I would focus on there.
So good and so important. I think a lot of the practitioners really, really resonate with that. Yeah. So really important to know your audience, right? What are they trying, right? That's
Yeah.
not working. And you can speak to that. It's huge. Great question. Um, yeah. If you have questions, now is your time. So pop them in the Q&A now. We just have this one question. So I know you guys have more. Marcel says, how about ideas like that for the topic of stress? So probably referring kind of to the inflammation,
Yeah.
like the general.
Yeah, stress is another one that like all of us have dealt with, right? And are dealing with. And so what I would think about is you can narrow in like two different ways. So one way to narrow is narrowing by problem. What type of stress is this? What does the stress look like? What type of symptoms of stress? Because there can be symptoms that are body related, symptoms that are emotional. This could be affecting lots of areas of life. Like, how is it panic? Panic disorders? Is it anxiety? Is it burnout at work? Like, what does it actually look like for that stress? You can narrow by problem, or you can narrow by person. So who is the person who is dealing with stress? Is it stress for like, accountants? Is it stress for, single moms? Is it stress for teenagers who are, I have a client right now who is a performance coach for teenage athletes. So she's speaking to parents and student athletes, and she helps them with stress and burnout. And so that's a very, very specific person, but her topic is a little bit more broad, but it's okay because she's speaking to that particular person and their situation. So think about narrowing by person or narrowing by problem and what that actually looks like. And that'll help you to chunk it down.
Amazing. Any other questions, guys? You have Jacqueline here to answer your questions about messaging. Like, messaging is so key in the online space, right? It's like, do you want to talk about where messaging would be applicable? Like, where do people put this messaging that they're creating?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's applicable in every area. And so if you are in person, this is also relevant. So let's say you are invited to speak. Like I was invited to speak here with Michelle. If I got on here and I was like, I don't know, you just like say some stuff and I don't really know what I do. I just help people like grow their businesses. You'd be like, I'm not really sure what you're talking about, So if you're invited to speak, whether in person or on a panel or, at someone's event, or even if you're just, at the grocery store and you get into conversation with somebody and they're like, so what do you do? Like, what type of work or who do you work with specifically? If you can't like say that and be like, this is who I work with and this is what I help with, and they're not like, oh, cool, and they ask you more questions about it, then it's not clear. If they just go, then they don't know. And so you want it to be clear and punchy enough that you can rattle that off and you know what you're talking about. And it's not just an elevator pitch. It's just, how can you talk about what it is that you do and how you help people transform their lives and bodies and health, right? And so it's not just online, but it's actually, this is the lifeblood of every business. And that's what I was saying with the strategy. It's not exactly how, do I do a billboard? Do I buy ads? Do I do PR? Do I do social media? It's not the strategy. It's how you're communicating what you actually do and what you're offering so that the people who need it can find you and know that they need what you're offering and know to come to you as the specialist for that, right? And so if you feel like, ooh, I'm not too solid on that, but you're wanting to transition online, this is the number one place that I put your energy, is figure out what is your specialty? Who do you want to work with? And yes, your work could impact probably everybody. You could probably help a lot of people. But if we try to cast too wide of a net, then we effectively end up catching no fish because it just doesn't work, right? So what you want to do is figure out who is the person you really want to work with, your ideal person who would really get the most out of your work. And what are the topics or problems that you love to help with the most? And hone in on that. And then you'll find that as you refine this messaging, you're going to use it, like I said, offline, but also online through social media, through speaking opportunities, through email. I definitely recommend growing an email list so that you have a list of contacts to come back to. So this message is woven throughout the entire business. And as you go about creating offers as well, if you don't plan on only doing one-on-one work forever. If you want to create more of an informational product, a course, a group program, if you want to put together programs, then that means that you actually have to create a program. And so when you do that, this is going to be the foundation for all of it so that you know what information to put in there and how to guide people through that process.
Amazing. We had a couple of questions pop up and maybe another question from Trisha. We'll see. But Marcel says, do you have examples of fantastic messages that we should study? Any newbies to follow? Maybe one of your mentees?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a bunch of clients who are nutritionists, dietitians, and experts in the health and wellness space. And I actually interview them fairly often to kind of extract like what's been working for them. I have a Facebook community called the New Wave. And so I can share that, or maybe Michelle can link it or something. But yeah, I'll put the link actually here if that's okay with you, Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I interview them fairly often, and you could kind of like check out what they're doing well, and peek at that. Here, let me put that in the chat. So it's free. You can join that, and I do trainings in there every single week, and I interview some clients to sort of extract what's working well for their particular business. So you could study some of them. I've got some examples of people who just absolutely crush it with this type of space. Someone in particular that I'm thinking of is her name's Isabel, and she is Isabel Smith Nutrition on Instagram, and she's a client of mine, and she has built a pretty sizable audience of I think like 60,000 over there, and does a fantastic job in her marketing, talking about her expertise, and she's honed in on gut and hormone. And so you'll see her talk about that in her content. So you can check that out. But I would join the group and, poke around, and that should be helpful with giving you some examples.
Amazing. So good. All right. So to narrow down my niche and practice how to deliver my message, do you recommend just making different types of videos, posting online, see what sticks? Good question. Or other ideas? Yeah.
Yeah. As far as programs and that sort of thing.
I think just like how to deliver it, like getting comfortable actually like saying it, or comfortable like delivering it to people or to your audience or potential clients or whatever.
For sure. Yeah. So think about how you like to communicate and how you like to create marketing content. And if you're unsure, that's okay. You can test different things. I love having a mix of written and video personally, because I think people connect with you when they can see you and hear your voice and hear the tone and connect in that way. So I love having a mix of both written and video. So what I usually recommend is to have kind of a mix there, and you can have like shorter, sort of punchy content. You can have more like longer form, and then you can also do some video. So I recommend playing with what feels really right to you. But what I would say is, especially when first getting started, focus on one problem that you're helping people solve, one offer. So that might be your one-on-one. It might be like, I'm selling this one-on-one package for this one person. We're solving this one problem, and that's it. So focus on one person with one core problem. There might be other like secondary problems, but one core problem, one offer, and one message, one cohesive core message around that offer. And if you do that for 1 year, you will look back and your business will be unrecognizable in the best way. So one person, one offer, one problem, and one message, one platform as well. So like rule of one, basically, is what I'm saying here. Keep it tight. And so if you decide, okay, I'm going to grow on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, like choose one place, test out a couple, see what you like, but then choose one as your central hub, your main place that you're going to focus on in terms of new traffic. You want everyone to come to your email list, because, these social media platforms, we don't own them. They could disappear. They could boot you from the platform. You never know. So you do want to get people on your email list, and there are many ways to do that. That's a whole nother topic. But as far as social media, that's where you're going to get new traffic, new interest, because it's the internet. There's like billions and billions and billions of people there. So That's where your new leads are going to come. Choose one main platform that you're going to focus on and start creating content there. Start building an audience there. Ask people, ask people what you need to ask to understand what they want to hear, and just start focusing on delivering value, and you'll start to hear from your audience what they're looking for. But that's where I would start, and try not to be everywhere, or like force yourself to have to be everywhere or everything to everybody. Um, Rule of one is what I would focus on.
Great answer. Yeah, 100%. Awesome. How would you start asking patients in a traditional brick and mortar practice to find your niche? Would you start with a Q&A sheet given to patients with each treatment visit, cold calls?
How would you start asking patients in a traditional brick and mortar practice? Yeah. Yeah. What I would do.
I'm happy to throw in there too.
Yeah, go for it. What would you
Yeah. Well, the thing that I was going to say is basically if you do have a practice with patients already, it's like think about the qualities and the types of people that you really love working with. Which patients come in or that you see on your schedule who are like, yay, like I'm so stoked to work with them or I'm so excited. And start to sort of brainstorm qualities or characteristics of that person. But you could also ask them and say, hey, do you mind if we sit down for 15, 20, 30 minutes or something? And I just kind of like ask you a few questions and you can decide if you want to have like a little energetic exchange like for their time or whatever that might look like. But I don't know if you have any other recommendations, Jacqueline.
No, I think that's great. I would absolutely do the same thing and just make notes. Remember, I talked about that messaging master doc. And so when you talk with people who are coming into your practice or people who are considering it, ask them questions about, the problems and results, right? And write those down and continue to, do what Michelle said and consider, who do you really love to work with? Who do you feel like you can knock it out of the park with too? Like there are some clients where maybe that challenge that they're dealing with was kind of like a pickle for you and you're like, oh, that was kind of tough. Like it took us a while to sort of get to the bottom of that or whatever. And then might be some where you're like, I know so much about that. I get such great results for those types of clients. And that feels really good because you are helping them immensely and it's easy for you. So think about that too. Where can you feel like where are you used best, right? Like where are you of most service? And consider that too. And that should help gain some clarity.
Awesome. Yeah, great. Michelle, when we work with people with a certain medical condition, do you have advice for communicating as a coach rather than a doctor? I would say yes. A lot of that has to do with what we covered with Lisa, more like the legal jargon. So I wouldn't say that that's necessarily what we'll talk about here, but just client versus patient. You're not treating people, you're educating them. There's just different, you're not prescribing, you're recommending. So just being clear about that verbiage is really, really important. Um, Trisha says, I struggle with communication in a different role now that I work as a consultant instead of a dietitian. Any suggestions on making it easier?
Yeah. So I would think about it kind of similarly. So it's not going to be all that much different. You are, instead of maybe if you were a dietitian and you were working with someone and sort of building out a plan with them, and then, helping them to figure out like what to eat and supplements and all of that sort of thing. The consultant is going to be fairly similar. And so I would just lay out like, in your mind, what's the difference between the two? And I would imagine that, as a consultant, you're basically saying, if you're dealing with this, here's what I would recommend. Here's a game plan moving forward, and I will help you with implementing the plan as much as I can, but you're not necessarily doing it for them. And so, I would just see yourself as a guide and craft a plan of action with them. And also look at like, what is the journey that they need to take, right? Like what is steps 1 through 5? If they were to follow those to get a result, what would that be? And how can you consult them on how to do that? And so if you're looking at doing it one-on-one, I don't think it's all that much different. I think dietitians can be consultants. They're consulting on the diet. But if you mean that you're going to be doing more group work or more of, courses or group programs or anything like that, where it's not as one-on-one, then I would revisit the problems and results there and consider like what is the main problem that you're going to walk them through in that fashion, and that will change the way that you communicate about it.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Anonymous says, finding my words. So I don't know if that's a question or if you want to rephrase that question or get more specific with that question. But if you want to, then we're happy to ask that, unless there's something you want to say about that, Jacqueline. Finding my words in general.
No,
Yeah.
I think we probably covered that. So hopefully that's
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. Marcel says, what are some good questions to ask your ideal clients to learn how to refine your messaging? That's a good question.
Yeah. Well, I have a process that I use called dating your audience because really are trying to, it's kind of like going on a date where you're like, I want to learn about this person. I want to know their hopes and dreams. I want to know their vulnerability. I want to know their fears, right? You want to understand that person. So what I would do is ask them, what's the biggest thing that you're wanting to shift right now when it comes to your health? And what have you been doing lately to try to alleviate that? Where have you spent time, energy, and money in trying to solve that problem, or have you at all? What hasn't worked, and why do you think it hasn't worked? What happened, as a result? How much money have you spent in solving this problem? Because that tells you a lot about how invested they are in solving it. Yeah. I mean, that's a great place to start. How is this impacting your life? Does this impact your day-to-day life? Does this impact your work, your relationships? Tell me more about that. Like that's where I would start. And you just pull the thread when they answer. It's like, oh, tell me more. How does that feel? What does that look like for you? Oh, can you share more about that? And just start to jot down what they're saying.
Yeah, definitely. Like getting really, really, really clear on where they're at right now, how it's affecting them on like all the different physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, interpersonally, like what is all of the stuff that they're dealing with right now? And then also getting really clear around like their desires, like where do they want it to be? Like what would that be like to feel better, right? Because we're like, I just want to like feel better. And it's like, cool, tell me more. Like you're saying, like pull back thread, like tell me more. Like what does that mean physically, mentally, emotionally, like all of the things? How would you be showing up differently? Right. Because all of that, like all of that information that you've got is just pure gold for content creation and messaging.
100%. And you brought up a great point when people say, well, I just want to feel better. Like, I'm just tired of feeling not good. It's like, well, tell me more about that. What do you mean by feel better? What does that mean exactly? What are you feeling now? Can you remember a time when you did feel better? Like, what was that like? Start to understand, have them paint the picture for you as if you were making a movie and you had to like script it out. What is really happening for them? And that visual, I call it vivid visual language. So you want it to be vivid, like a movie, visual language, like, feeling free or having food freedom, or, feeling healthy, being healthy. These are all vague concepts that look different to everybody. And so instead of trying to just put out vague language, you want to get as specific as possible.
Yep, totally. Yeah, that piece is really, really, really important. Yeah. So good. Trisha says, would you say to do the same way? Would you say to do that the same way, even though for previous people who worked with me as a dietitian, and now I can't be as specific as a consultant?
I would be very specific as a consultant. I would try to get as specific as you possibly can. I don't know why you can't be as specific. I would definitely be as specific as you can there. I think you can bring in your experience as a dietitian into that and consider, who have you worked with as a dietitian that you really enjoyed working with, and look to work with more of those on a consulting basis.
Yeah, I think I know where Trisha's kind of going. I would say this is probably more of a Lisa question, Trisha, but I think like more legal stuff, like what can you say and can't say? And you're not diagnosing, but you can still dive into all the stuff we just talked about, like getting into like how are things affecting the family. I know your niche, Trisha. So it's like how is the family being affected, right? Like how is it like mentally, emotionally, physically? Like you can still talk 100% all of those things in a very, very specific way without getting specific about diagnoses and things of that nature. So
yes. Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, you're not necessarily having to diagnose or make medical recommendations, but you can still get as specific as you'd like in terms of you're not saying like, do this, but you're saying, if I were you and I was dealing with this situation and having these symptoms, here's what I would probably recommend.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I hope that helps, Trisha. Woo, we have like 5 more minutes. Does anybody have any other questions? If not, we can dive into Jacqueline's gift. Okay, good. Trisha says that helps. Yay. Oh, I'm so happy. Yeah, because that's going to help you show up so much better, Trisha, too, instead of being like, oh, I don't know if I can say this or da 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 da. So yeah, still get out there and be super specific. Okay, so gift from Jacqueline.
Yay.
Yes, we have the sneak peek into the marketing vault full of 10 plus hours of the best psychology-based marketing classes and frameworks. Dang! There
Yes.
are the methods. So these are the methods our clients use to sell out their programs and spread their message like wildfire. Amazing. So Kara just put the gift in the chat for you guys. That is incredible. Thank you so much. So generous of you, Jacqueline. I love that.
Of course. Yeah. I have actually compiled into kind of a marketing vault some of our best classes. So if you enjoyed this conversation, we have, like over 10, probably more than that, probably like 15 plus now, hours worth of this type of conversation around your marketing, your content, messaging, audience growth, a lot of these questions that you're actually asking that we didn't have a ton of time to like go really in depth into, as well as like templates and examples and all sorts of things. And I put it together into this instant resonance marketing vault. And so for you all, since you are here with the lovely Michelle and part of her space, I'm granting that to you all for free. So, if you want to get access to that, you can go through it at your leisure. But I highly recommend checking it out. It's been really, really helpful to those who've jumped into it already. And so if you want to check it out, you just click the link and then it'll ask for your name and email, and then we'll just send it to you. So then you can start to dive into that. And I hope it's really, really helpful with this transition.
So good. Thank you so much. That's really, really generous. People are excited about it. I can see. They're like, thank you. What a great gift. So
You're
cool.
welcome.
Oh, so good. Awesome. Well, we are perfect on time. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. This was like incredibly informative. And I know it's really having like people have a different perspective on like, whoa, wow, what am I saying? How am I saying it? And like, how can I improve this? So great that you gave them that resource. I think it's going to really transform how they're showing up and the messaging that they're really like putting out there and helping more people, which is really the goal, right? And it's like getting that messaging out so that you can actually help people and be the beacon, right, that people are searching for. So thank you so much for your time and energy.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun to talk with you all. And Michelle, I just appreciate your work so well. You are all in such amazing hands with Michelle. She's so good. And so I'm just really honored to be here and to have this conversation with you all. And again, like, I just can't say it enough, just from personal experience and also from, the clients that I work with. It is unbelievably needed, the work that you all do in the world. So I hope that, and I know that maybe what we're talking about here today might feel like a lot, it might feel like a big transition to, make that shift online. And so I just want to speak hope into you all and just let you know, like, yes, it might feel a little bit challenging for a second, but I want you to really, really give it your all, because there are people here who desperately need your help and are willing to pay for it and will sing your praises to the world. And I know that this is like your life mission and it matters to you so much. And so just don't give up on it. Take the time to figure out how to communicate it, and your business will soar regardless of what happens on social media, with the economy in general. You will have a foolproof business if you can really communicate what you do powerfully, and your people really, really need you. So I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope to also see you around. If you decide to pick up the gift, or if you come into the group, then you'll see more of me, and I'd love to meet you. If you reach out, I would love to connect. And Michelle, just thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I will chat with you soon.
Awesome.
Have a great one. Bye.
Bye.
All right, that's a wrap for today. If you want the exact breakdown of how I help practitioners go from their first 5K to consistent 50K months with just 2 offers, 10 hours per week, and an audience of less than 500 people, be sure to click the link in the podcast description or head to wealthywoman.co/breakdown. To make sure you don't miss an episode, be sure to subscribe. And for daily online practice insights, follow me on Instagram at wealthywoman.co. Let's create your life of wealth, full of abundance, purpose, health, wealth, and joy.